This is not a message. This is disclosure. Feel the sentence land like a small, undeniable weight in your chest. If you noticed your breath shift as you heard it, if a subtle warmth gathered beneath your breastbone, you are not merely listening. You are being named into something that has already begun. They, an intelligence you have felt more than seen, are not arriving now. They have been working in spaces you did not expect, under the feeling of boredom, in the quiet between arguments, behind the sudden answers that arrive before you ask. This transmission is an announcement. Phase 1 of their design is active, and you have been positioned inside it. Listen with the parts of you that already recognize the pattern. The words that follow will work like coordinates. They are not demands. They are not guarantees. They are invitations to notice, to confirm, to claim what is already reshaping inside you. You were chosen not for drama, but for coherence. Not for headline visibility, but for a capacity to hold and carry frequency. How to know. How to trust the small proof that arrives as a physical sensation or an improbable coincidence. Below are the signs, simple, direct, so you can read your own life by them. As you hear each one, pause within and register. Does this map onto you? Indicators you have entered the plan. 1. Your internal compass shifted. Where you once debated for hours, a direction now arrives like a soft current, subtle, sure. Decision-making becomes cleaner, not because options fell away, but because your inner filter has been retuned. You sense right as a low frequency before the mind finishes arguing. 2. Synchronicities accelerated and took on pattern. Not random miracles, but repeated coordinates. The same symbol in separate places, a name that keeps appearing, numbers that line up across days. Each coincidence is a stitch in a new timeline, small alignments that begin to pull events into a more coherent sequence. 3. Emotional thresholds recalibrated. The emotional storms that once defined a day now ebb faster. Pain is still real, but your capacity to move through it without collapsing has increased. You feel the edges of old reactive loops loosening. You find yourself able to hold more without losing your center. 4. Intuitive bandwidth expanded. Intuition arrives with clearer language, images, phrases, a quiet insistence. It is less like a guess and more like a transmission. You may begin to dream in directive detail, or receive impressions that later prove to be roadmaps. Your inner compass begins to speak with the confidence of someone who has been listened to. 5. Time feels thinner. Timelines that used to stretch heavy and long now compress. Projects arrive sooner. Meetings appear out of context. Relationships pivot with speed. You notice events converging, as if the calendar itself had been edited to favor certain encounters. 6. Memory layers shift. Old memories surface not as wounds, but as codes. You retrieve pieces of your history with an unusual clarity that functions like an activation key. Where there was fog, there is suddenly a seam you can follow. 7. People around you reposition. Some relationships become frictionless, others slip away or fall into new roles. This is not punishment, it is curation. Those who are aligned remain and are recalibrated. Those who are not recede so the field can hold a higher frequency. 8. A recurring sensation of presence. Stillness that is not absence, but attention. It may arrive as coolness at the back of your neck, a soft ringing behind the ears, a sense that someone or something is listening with you. This presence is the structural field beginning to hold around you. 9. A future self-thread. Brief visions, sudden knowing of how you will feel or act beyond current conditions, appears with tenderness and insistence. You catch yourself acting as if a decision had already been made, and later seeing that your future self was right. If most of these landed, you are not experiencing random spiritual growth. You are experiencing positioning. The difference is essential. Awakening can be a scattered interior phenomenon. Positioning is strategic. It is weaving you into a larger architecture. A note of caution and tenderness. If this list unsettles you, slow down. Not everyone will feel all signs at once. Some signs arrive as whispers, some as tidal shifts. Honor the pace that is yours. What was changed inside you? They did not overwrite your essence. They adjusted thresholds, expanded receptors, and cleared the channels that had been congested by previous timelines and contracts. The work was surgical in a way that feels like both repair and upgrade. First, emotional gates were widened. Where you used to close at the first hint of pain, the pause between stimulus and reaction lengthened. That pause is the newly engineered room in which choice can be made. It does not eliminate feeling. It makes choice available. Second, intuition receptors were broadened and tuned. Think of your intuition as an antenna. It has been lengthened, cleaned of static, and focused on frequencies that matter for communal reorganization. You may find that impressions arrive with clearer meaning, and that small instincts are actually directives. Third, destiny receptors were activated. This is a phrase that must be handled carefully. Activation here means the opening of capacities to sense and align with probable outcomes that match your highest coherence. It does not mean predetermined fate. It means increased attunement to paths that favor your integrative potential. Fourth, timeline collapse occurred in specific corridors, moments where alternate possibilities were intentionally condensed into a chosen route. Imagine several doors closing softly in the background while one opens and brightens. This is not removal of free will. It is the compression of opportunity into a pattern that will accelerate coordinated outcomes. Fifth, memory activations were introduced as keys rather than burdens. Events from your past reemerge not as wounds to be relived, but as codes to be read. These codes are usable. They contain permission, lessons, and alignments that guide you into the field they are building. A brief vignette. A person, called her Mara, began to notice these changes months ago. Small things first. A childhood phrase resurfacing as a sudden solution to a work problem. An ex showing up only to dissolve a pattern of re-traumatization. A vivid dream that later matched a real conversation she had 3 days afterward. Mara did not become more magical overnight. She became less entangled with the stories that had kept her reactive. The work done on her thresholds allowed a practical sequence to accelerate: decision, meeting, project, alignment. Her story is not unique. It is an example of how internal engineering produces tangible external movement. Behind the scenes, what was coordinated without your conscious knowing? There is a choreography that happens when timelines are synchronized. It is not mystical theater. It is precision work on many levels. They synchronized events, not by controlling every detail, but by adjusting the contexts in which chance meets readiness. People who once would not have crossed your path now do so at the precise intersection that allows a timeline to accelerate. Jobs, conversations, even small errands became nodes where one touch could catalyze a sequence. Relationships were adjusted, sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly. The adjustments are not punitive, they are pruning. Some people are moved into roles of support. Others are removed so the field can clear. You may experience this as sudden distance or surprising intimacy. Both are meant to stabilize your capacity to hold a higher frequency. Memory layers were activated at times when you could metabolize them. These activations are not random hauntings, they are calibrations. A memory surfaces, you integrate a missing thread, and you step into a new readiness. This is how your past becomes fuel rather than weight. They collapse timelines and corridors where alignment mattered most: your vocation, your intimate field, and your capacity to act as a transmitter. Not every timeline was altered, only the avenues that intersect with the nodes they intend to create. This is why some parts of life may feel unchanged while others move quickly. The plan is selective, not universal. Why you were chosen. There are three core criteria the Arcturians reference when selecting vessels: coherence, calibration, and future self proximity. Coherence. This is the capacity to hold inner authority without needing to prove it externally. You may not realize how much you have practiced holding yourself steady in small crises. Those small habits accumulate into coherence. Calibration. Emotional maturity, not perfection. The subtle ability to feel without being swallowed by feeling. People with this trait create less static in a field. They allow transmissions to flow. Future self proximity. A tendency to act from a slightly advanced timeline. Some of you have been unconsciously practicing the life you now are meant to inhabit. You make choices that are one heartbeat ahead of your present circumstances. That propensity makes you a useful bridge. They did not choose you because you are rare in virtue. They chose you because your inner architecture could be adapted without catastrophic destabilization. In simpler terms, you could be upgraded. The Arcturian Plan, conceptual map. The plan they reveal is energetic, structural, and communal. They are not sending physical fleets. They are creating nodes, stable points of frequency that act as anchors in a broader human field. Each node is not a single person, but a stabilized configuration. Someone like you who is aligned internally, networked communally, and capable of transmitting a refined frequency into local systems. Nodes are built through 5 coordinated processes. 1. Restoration of intuition, clearing the pathways that allow clear inner sensing and decisive action. 2. Emotional reconstruction, rebuilding thresholds so reactions become responsive choices rather than reflexive shutdowns. 3. Timeline compression, aligning small events so that momentum builds and desired sequences accelerate. 4. Community weaving, placing nodes near other nodes so they can form resonance circuits, mutual support that amplifies stability. 5. Future self-bridging, creating accessible threads to probable selves who have already navigated certain outcomes, which provides blueprinting and steadying feedback. Their objective is not to create leaders in the old sense of hierarchy. Their objective is to create stabilizers, people who can hold higher frequencies and, through presence, normalize those frequencies within broader human contexts. You are being prepared to carry steadiness, not spectacle. Your role, who you are becoming. Listen here, titles are secondary. Identity is primary. The language below is offered not as destiny carved in stone, but as a reflection of capacities being cultivated in you. You are a stabilizer. You will be someone who calms a field by being present. Others will feel steadied simply by your arrival. You are a transmitter. Your clarity of being will carry information. Your presence will catalyze clarity in others. You are a bridge. You will link threads between people, ideas, and timelines. Your life will act as an intermediary corridor through which alignment moves. You are an anchor point. When acceleration happens, someone must hold the ground. You will evolve the capacity to maintain cohesion while things shift around you. You are a catalyst. You will be a source of movement, not by pushing, but by offering concentrated frequency that invites change. These descriptors are not badges to wear publicly. They are inner configurations to cultivate in privacy and practice. As you embody these qualities, you will find your choices and relationships beginning to mirror them. How this unfolds practically. You will notice subtle changes in how you plan and relate. Projects that used to require long negotiation will begin to consolidate quicker. Conversations will carry sharper resonance. You will find yourself naturally organizing, gathering small groups, choosing collaborators, or ending commitments that no longer match your field. Do not mistake acceleration for certainty. The Arcturian work increases probability toward aligned outcomes, but human choice remains essential. Your consent, attention, and repeated re-anchoring are the channels through which this plan gains sustainable shape. Timing. Why now? Timing matters because readiness is cumulative. Multiple vectors aligned. Personal readiness in many of you, a threshold in collective frequency, and an urgency in future self-signals that required earlier compression. There was no single trigger. Rather, a confluence reached a critical mass. The Arcturian seized that axis of coherence and moved to set Phase 1 into motion. Understand this: the timing is not punitive or fearful. It is opportunistic in the highest sense, an opening that appears when enough internal work meets external permissiveness. The window is not infinite, which is why disclosure is happening now, not to alarm, but to orient. A practical invitation toward grounding. Before the next phase deepens, there is an essential preparatory step: grounding. Grounding here is not a cliché. It is structure. It is practical rituals that create capacity to hold increased frequency without burnout. Grounding practices that meet their criteria are simple and sustainable. Consistent breath awareness daily, elemental reconnection, water, modest movement, small practices of boundary drawing, saying no to what drains, and night routines that allow integration of day-sourced activations. These are scaffolding practices. They do not create the frequency you are designed to carry, but they enable it to be held. Support and the protected field. Soft invitation. If this transmission has caused a warmth in your chest, a sense of being known, or a recognition that your timelines have shifted, there is a resource available for deeper holding. A protected field exists where more sustained transmissions and guided stabilization sessions are offered. This space is created to support those navigating accelerated realignment. Sessions that include advanced transmissions, guided anchoring, and practical tools for timeline recalibration and community integration. If you sense that your process is intense or that you need containment while things accelerate, consider this as an available option. It is not a requirement. It is a support system, a container designed to reduce noise and provide intentional practice, resonance, and direct transmission in a held field. There is no pressure in this invitation, only provision. If this resonates, note it for later so you can lean into support when you feel the next wave. For now, simply register the possibility. There are other humans and structured transmissions aligned to help you stabilize. What comes next? An outline of the near movement. Phase 1 is not a single act. It is a sequence. The next movements will focus on the formation of nodes, specific configurations of people and frequencies that will anchor in diverse geographies and networks. These nodes will not announce themselves as dramatic events. They will be felt, a steadiness, a practical pattern, the right people showing up at the right time. In the coming transmissions, you will be offered practical anchors, phrases, practices, and small rituals that help you claim and maintain your position. These will be offered as optional. They work most effectively when they are chosen, not imposed. Consent is the energetic key. When you accept, your field locks in with the transmission. If you decline, the plan will respect that choice and recalibrate elsewhere. A deeper practical note about consent and optional practice. The activation components are tools. You may write them, whisper them, internalize them, or decline them. They are designed to function as ritualized commitments, symbols that your nervous system can use as anchors. Use them in the way that aligns with your integrity. A moment to check in with your body. Take an internal inventory now. Do you feel a mild expansion in the chest? A subtle ringing? A coolness at the nape? Even a tiny shift is evidence of opening. These sensations are trivial in size, but vast in import. They indicate receptivity and enough coherence to proceed. If your body resists, if anxiety spikes or nausea comes, pause. Ground more deeply. The plan does not require reckless surrender. It requires integration. Why community will matter in this phase? The work they are doing is distributed. No single person sustains the field alone. Nodes need other nodes. This is why small networks form quickly. They amplify, stabilize, and provide corrective feedback. Being in a resonant community makes it easier to hold unusual states for longer periods without fragmentation. In practical terms, community offerings in the protected field include guided transmissions, check-ins, and curated exercises that help members practice holding high frequencies in everyday contexts. These are not doctrinal classrooms. They are laboratories for embodied coherence. A closing orientation for this segment. You are now inside the beginning of a movement. The rest of the disclosure will deliver specific anchors and clearer operational language. How to recognize the exact moments where your influence matters, how to speak with your future self, and how to participate as a transmitter without burning your grounding. For now, hold what arrived: the fact of positioning, the list of indicators, the sense that internal engineering has occurred, and the practical invitation to consider support if the acceleration feels overwhelming. There is work being done both in your interior and in the threads that tie you to others. Notice the small confirmations that arrive in the hours and days ahead. When you are ready to continue, the next transmission will introduce precise anchors and optional ritual language designed to seal your position in the node network. It will also offer guided sequences to help you stabilize after each activation, methods to come back to center, to reclaim sleep, and to protect your bandwidth as momentum builds. Stay present to the small proofs. Keep your ritual simple. Trust the incremental confirmations that come through pattern, not spectacle. You were positioned because you can hold more than you previously thought. The work ahead will ask for steady attention and tender discipline. There will be invitations to step forward and times when the wisest action is to remain quiet and strong. Now breathe and notice one more thing: the subtle stillness that remains after awareness arrives. That stillness is the field beginning to form around you. It is both shelter and instrument. Remain with that. Remain with that quiet that now sits just beneath your awareness. Let it be an axis you return to as we move into practical anchors. Small, precise gestures that lock the interior shifts into everyday living. The next set of words will be operational. They are not spells that force outcomes. They are tools you may use to steady the nervous system, to orient attention, and to confirm consent with the intelligence that has been working on your behalf. Begin with the simplest grid: breath, center, name. If you are sitting, soften your shoulders. Place a hand lightly over your heart or abdomen, where you feel warmth gather, and notice the natural rhythm of your breath. Name the space with one clear sentence, spoken once or written once, in whichever mode feels safest: aloud, whispered, written on paper, or held silently inside. The form matters less than the meaning. You are declaring your participation, not surrendering agency. Practical Anchor 1. The Breath Lock. 1. In for 4 counts, hold for 3, exhale for 6. Repeat 3 times. 2. On the final exhale, say, out loud, whispered, or silently, the anchor phrase: I accept my entry into the Arcturian plan. 3. Rest and register the sensation for 30 to 60 seconds. Warmth, subtle expansion, release. This phrase is offered as a precise anchor. You may alter its language. You may sit with it silently. You may write it once and fold the paper into a pocket you carry for a day. The choice is yours. If the phrase does not sit well, do not force it. Consent is the energetic key. When you choose, your system moves in alignment. Practical anchor 2. The thread to future self. 1. Find a private surface. Write a single sentence to your future self, no more than 10 words. Examples: hold steadiness and move with clarity. Or, remember to choose rest. Keep the tone practical, not prophetic. 2. Fold the paper and place it somewhere small: a book, a wallet, a drawer. Each time you touch it over the next week, breathe and imagine a fine thread, like a filament of light, connecting your present chest to the image of that future self. 3. Twice in the next 3 days, read the sentence aloud or whisper it and notice any images or small instructions that arise. This is not magic. It is a practical way to train attention and to create a felt sense of continuity between who you are now and who you will become. The Arcturian work favors this kind of repeated, low-key rehearsal. Practical anchor 3. The node sketch. 1. On a blank page, draw a simple symbol in the center: a dot, a spiral, a triangle, any glyph that feels like you at this moment. 2. Around the symbol, write 5 short words that describe what steadiness looks like when you are in the field. For example, calmed voice, direct choices, clear boundaries, listening, warm presence. 3. Place that sketch where you will see it daily for 1 week. When you look at it, take 1 breath and name aloud one of the 5 words. This small ritual creates a visual cue that trains your nervous system to embody the stabilizer role in ordinary moments. It connects the abstract identity, stabilizer, transmitter, bridge, to practical behavior. A guided sequence for speaking with your future self. You will not always receive cinematic visions. Most communication will come as impressions, phrases, or a sudden nudge. The following sequence is a method for inviting those impressions in a contained way. 1. Sit quietly for 3 minutes. Keep eyes open or closed, whatever feels grounding for you. 2. Place your dominant hand over your heart. Breathe steadily. 3. Ask one simple question, spoken aloud or internally. What next step will serve my coherence in the coming week? 4. Allow a quiet window of attention for up to 5 minutes. Notice any images, single words, bodily nudges, or physical sensations. Do not analyze, only register. 5. When something appears, no matter how small, write it down. Even a single word is important. 6. Close the session by thanking the presence or the future self in the language that feels true to you. Seal the session with a short phrase if you wish. I hold this as consent. If you feel blocked or the mind draws you into argument, shorten the window. 10 deep breaths and a 2-word note may be all that is necessary. The skill is not in length, but in repetition. Meeting your future self regularly teaches your system how to hear, and hearing reorganizes probability. Optional activation commands. Precise language offered. Below are phrases given as instruments. Use them exactly if you wish, or translate them into your own words. Options for usage. Write once, whisper aloud once, repeat 3 times softly, or hold them silently and breathe them in. All are optional. I accept my entry into the Arcturian plan. I anchor clarity. I hold steadiness. I transmit with compassion. My present aligns with my future. My steps are guided and witnessed. I open to coordinated movement and remain the calm necessary for it. If you choose to vocalize these, do so gently. If you choose to write them, do so with intention and place the paper in a small protective envelope. If you choose to internalize them, hold each phrase as a mantra for 1 minute and then return to your day. The point of repetition is to give your nervous system a linguistic strap to hold on to. The practice is the carrier for the shift. After an activation, integration practices. Activations sometimes leave systems vulnerable if not carefully integrated. These are simple, repeatable steps to reclaim balance after an anchor. 1. Ground with element. Drink a glass of water slowly. Feel its weight and temperature. 2. Engage the body. 5 minutes of gentle movement, walking, stretching, or simple yoga, without expectation of perfection. 3. Limit stimulation. For at least 1 hour after a deep anchor, minimize heavy news, intense conversations, or excessive screen time. 4. Sleep scaffolding. If the activation occurs near night, place a small cloth under your pillow. Breathe into your body for 5 minutes before sleep, reminding yourself that tomorrow contains continuing integration, not sudden demands. 5. Social support. If you feel unsettled, share one line about your experience with a trusted person. Not explanation, only a witness sentence. I did a small activation and am feeling tender. If you experience intense physical discomfort, dizziness, or distress, stop the practice and seek appropriate professional support. These practices are energetic and psychological. They are not substitutes for medical care. Micro-practices for daily node operation. The Arcturian plan favors calibration in ordinary moments. Here are low-effort routines that build capacity without needing long hours of practice. The 1-minute center. Pause at the start of a meeting, place a hand on the heart, and take 30 seconds of breath to align posture and tone. The steady phrase. Choose a 3-word phrase that reminds you of steadiness. Listen, then move. Quiet strength now. Hold and breathe. The exit ritual. When leaving any attempt at drama or emotional charge, state silently, "This field is not mine to carry," and breathe out fully. The relational filter. Before agreeing to a request that will take time or emotional energy, ask yourself one question: does this protect my node? If the answer is unclear, request time, an hour or a day to decide. These small disciplines accumulate. The plan does not require heroic sacrifice. It requires repeated, ordinary practices that protect your bandwidth and increase coherence. On boundaries and relational adjustments. You will notice relationships reconfigure. Some people will move closer, others will drop away. Boundaries are not weapons. They are instruments of presence. Practically. Practice short refusals. You do not owe long explanations. Not right now is sufficient. Use scheduled check-ins. When someone requests your time, propose a set, bounded appointment rather than ad hoc access. Create physical and temporal markers for your day that preserve your energy. An evening cutoff, a work buffer in the morning, a tiny sacred corner of your home as an integration space. Recalibrations are not personal punishments. They are curations that maintain the higher frequency that the Arcturian work requires for nodes to function. A vignette of integration. Consider Theo, who works in a crowded office. After an initial anchor, he began using the 1-minute center at the start of each meeting. He noticed that his decisions became clearer and others mirrored his steadiness. Small tasks consolidated into a sequence that allowed him to complete a long-delayed project in weeks rather than months. Theo did not perform miracles. He simply practiced tiny structural changes that aligned attention with action. His social field followed, not because he imposed it, but because his steadiness made it easier for others to follow suit. This is the mode of influence being cultivated. Quiet acceleration through consistent interior practice. The architecture of nodes in practical environments. Nodes will not always look like formal groups. Many will be informal clusters. 3 neighbors who begin to coordinate community support. A handful of colleagues who practice reflective listening. A small online cohort that shares anchors and checks in. The energy of the node is practical. It manages resources, models steadiness, and offers containment. If you find yourself forming a node, begin small. Convene intentionally. Share one practice per meeting. Rotate facilitation. Keep membership limited until habits are established. The goal is not expansion for visibility's sake, it is stability. Timeline recalibration, guided exercise. Timeline compression is an effect you may feel. Sequences that used to take months move into weeks. You can participate intentionally in this compression with a short exercise. 1. Choose a single project or relationship thread you want to accelerate. Something that aligns with your integrity and with the themes of steadiness and service. 2. Break it into 3 next actions you can take within 7 days.
Keep each action small and indisputably doable. 3. Each morning, visualize each action as already in motion. Spend 30 seconds feeling the finality of completion, the relief, the small joys, the field stabilized. 4. At day's end, note any synchronistic touchpoint that assisted you. An email, a person appearing, a meeting that consolidated. Register it without attaching to outcome. This practice trains your perceptual apparatus to notice opportunistic windows, the intersections of readiness and chance that the Arcturian coordination is adjusting. On protection and filtering external noise. Nodes require a protective amplitude. That means learning to filter voices, external expectations, sensationalism, or styles of leadership that demand reaction. Some practical filters. Reduce broadcast intake. Limit exposure to sensationalist media and social feeds for days following deep activation. Create a 3-question filter for offers of help or collaboration. Does this align with my node? Does this conserve my bandwidth? Does it respect my boundaries? Appoint a witness, a trusted friend or small accountability partner who can give you a simple, "Does this feel aligned?" check when you are uncertain. Protection here is practical, not fearful. It is the maintenance of a field in which calibration continues. How to know when to rest. Acceleration burns fuel. The intelligence that is guiding this work intentionally inserts pauses. Recognize them as necessary maintenance, not failure. Signs it's time to rest. Sleep becomes fitful or shortened. You notice irritability that persists beyond the situation. Tasks that used to be pleasurable feel heavy and flat. Rest strategies. Short micro naps or deliberate evening wind downs. A day with minimal planning. Allow your nervous system to integrate without performance expectations. Reconnection with steady sensations. Water, grounding walks, tactile comforts. Rest is not retreat. It is the replenishment that enables sustained transmission. Community offerings. What sustained support looks like. When the field accelerates, it helps to be accompanied. The protected member circle exists for those seeking deeper, held practice. The container provides advanced transmissions, targeted energy sessions that work with the node architecture and provide layered anchors. Alignment sessions, guided practices for timeline recalibration, including practical checklists and small group rehearsals. Integration labs, small cohorts practicing embodiment techniques in everyday contexts. How to hold presence at work, at home, in transit. Containment calls, moderated gatherings for debrief, witness, and recalibration after a deep activation. Resource library, recorded anchors, scripts, and short practices you can access when you need immediate support. Membership is not promised to change external facts by fiat. The circle is a held field offering advanced transmissions, alignment sessions, timeline recalibration tools, and community integration exercises, designed to reduce noise, provide consistent practice, and give you a steady witness as your node forms and strengthens. If you feel called, join the member circle via the link in the description below. This is the single step offered here, a place of continued support for those who choose accompaniment. For everyone else, the practice remains the same, small, consistent anchors that honor consent and protect bandwidth. Close with breath and presence.
Take 3 slow breaths now. With each inhale, feel a slight expansion in the chest. With each exhale, imagine a thin filament connecting you to a steadier future. Offer gratitude in your own language for the capacity that allowed you to receive this transmission. Know that being positioned is an ongoing process. It will unfold over time through repetition, care, and intentional rest. You are inside the plan, not by accident, not by spectacle, but by repeated consent and the gradual habit of steadiness. Continue with kindness toward yourself. Keep the anchor simple. Return to the small proofs that arrive in days to come. The field will do its work through ordinary devotion to practice. Remain present, remain steady, remain aligned.